welcome back to another episode of the Petey Performance Podcast. Another solo episode for you guys today. And today what I'm coming on to speak about is mentors and mentorships. I've been in the industry for a number of years now, since 2017, I want to say. And I have had a number of different mentors and I've had positive experiences with all of them. So I don't run a mentorship course. I'm not coming on here to sell anything at all, to be honest. But given that I've just started a new mentorship with Alan Murdoch of SpeedWorks Bath, if you're looking for him on social media, it had me reflecting a lot on previous mentorships and my approach to mentorships and why I believe as a coach or any practitioner in any industry, you should be seeking out mentorship opportunities and mentors to learn from if you're actually interested in improving in your professional environment, in your personal development as well, which is something I'll get onto, and in relation to how you manage your life, really. There's so many people in the world, something I reflected on and touched on in the last episode, and there's something to learn from all of them. But if you can get some good quality mentors and some mentors that are in the line of work that you want to go into, or that have some facet of their lives that they do better than you do and you need to and want to learn from them, then you've got to reach out to them. And generally, as I said last week, people are generally pretty nice and they'll be willing to help. So I've gained a lot from my mentors, as I'm sure they have gained a lot from our relationship as well, and being that mentor, because they say the best way to learn is to teach, for sure. And I definitely think that it's a two-way street as a mentor and a mentee. And that's something that I will be speaking about as we get into this episode. So 2017, I was doing my internship in Blackrock College, and Daniel Moore, who I've had on a previous episode of the podcast, he was my first mentor, and he was a great mentor, to be honest. He definitely led me down the rabbit hole of speed and change of direction development and development of game speed, and he was implementing that back in 2017 in Blackrock, and I learned a lot from him, and he's just a top quality guy. An interesting guy, because you'll probably go to look for him on social media, but he's off the grid. Some of you might remember him from a TV show that goes pretty well in Ireland. Special Forces is what it's called, I think. I'm not sure. I think they finished it this year. They did like a celebrity edition, but Dan went to the very end and he spoke about it on the podcast with me. Very driven individual, very interesting individual, but a great mind and a great person to connect with athletes, especially youth athletes, and a great person to have hard conversations with both athletes and coaches and really drive elite level standards within the weight room and on the pitch. And just a great mind, and great to pick his brain in regards to what is important and what is not important. As you can see, he has a young family and he doesn't entertain the idea of social media whatsoever, and he's right in some regard because he doesn't need to. I often say, like, if it wasn't for the way my business is structured and what I gain from social media, I probably wouldn't have social media. But I think I have a decent relationship with it in that I'm able to switch off from it now. Previously I didn't, but that was something that my next mentor, who was, well, actually, no, not my next mentor, but a mentor after that, was Sam Portland. I might get onto him after. But from Blackrock and Lansdowne, I moved to Singapore then. And I was picking my brain as to who was my mentor when I was in Singapore. And I don't think I had one and only mentor in Singapore. I think I had multiple mentors within the company I was working for over there. And they were great mentors as well, because they had so much experience in the fitness industry and in strength and conditioning and in a wide variety of things as well, that I was able to pick and choose and take different things from all of them because they had all such different backgrounds. So Tom Clark was my manager over there, and he's now working as a PE teacher. But he was very good in terms of streamlining your work and making sure you get the most and the maximum amount done for the time that is invested, as well as streamlining your schedule and making sure that you're not trying to be in two places at once. And he just put me in touch with great opportunities that really developed me as a coach, like my opportunities to coach with the Wanderers over there and transitioning into an assistant coaching role. That was unbelievable for me being able to connect with and communicate with large teams, as well as my rugby coaching, which then went on to improve when I went to CCR back in Roscrea. And he was managing me, and he had quarterly meetings with me, and he knew how to communicate with me best, which can be difficult, especially as you can see, I'm self-employed now. I'm not a fantastic employee in terms of my communication skills, but I will get shit done. So he figured out that because I had so many things on my mind and I had so many different things I was focusing on, time was at a premium. So then he started conversing with me in walking meetings, quick meetings, 5-10 minutes, bullet points. We're both well prepared for it. We're out the gap. We don't need a meeting for another while. We know what's happening. As well as that, I had Henry Terblanche, he's been on the podcast as well, in fact, and he used to work with the Bulls in South Africa. Just a phenomenal mind in terms of S&C. Just as a practitioner, there seems to be very little that he wasn't well read on in terms of research, and then implementing it and being just a really good quality person. And also his retention with people that came in to work with him in a one-on-one, a two-on-one setting was phenomenal, because he had the ability to question them and make a really high quality and high value relationship with them. So that was something that I learned from him. The talk shouldn't always be about what you're doing, and they don't really care that much about why you're doing different exercises and why you're implementing this different strategy. They care that you listen to them, you give them what they need, maybe not necessarily what they want, but you make it the lowest barrier for them possible. And then you talk to them about everything else as well that you can. Talk to them about what's going on in their life, what their interests are, and just develop a relationship and a friendship that's strong, and then they'll be committed to you as well. You have to care. You have to really care about what you're doing, and you have to show that care in how you handle them and how you treat them and how you manage things for them, because Henry as well has a young family, and he will say himself he was struggling at times in terms of time management and whatnot, but I saw how hard he worked to get that in order so that he had that family time that he needed as well. And then Chris Hodges, who is a peer and a good friend, I was actually on the phone to him not too long ago. He was great in terms of questioning my process as a rugby coach. We were coaching at Tanglin, which is a youth team over there, together. I had the 15s, he had 17s. And we both had slightly different approaches to coaching and training. Slightly different, but what was good was I was more process orientated, down on paper, this is what we're doing. But Chris was very good at, why are we doing it this way? And he would quiz me and he would say, okay, why are you implementing it that way? What's the best way to do that? He was good at scheduling meetings away from the actual implementation of the program and quizzed me on, okay, how are you connecting with your athletes? How are you developing a strong bond amongst the team? How are you dealing with any issues amongst the team, amongst parents? How are you communicating with parents? How are you managing maybe problem players? How are you managing those conversations? How are you having those conversations? Yeah, just fantastic as well. And Ollie Trotman as well, who has been on the podcast also. He was great. Like, he is such a vast knowledge, to be honest. It's incredible. And me and him would go back and forth and debate for hours, and we'd really enjoy it because the other one would always have something to come back at the other one about. From a youth athlete coaching perspective, I've never seen somebody able to connect with youth athletes on the same level as Ollie. He's a big kid, which makes it very easy for him to connect with the athletes and have a good bit of crack with the athletes. And that was something that I learned from him as well, is you don't have to be that serious all of the time. It's meant to be fun for kids and for youth athletes, so make it fun. And don't be afraid to be a big kid at times as well. But then also, he was able to be stern when necessary too. But yeah, I love my conversations with Ollie, and I loved learning from him around his process. And I loved when he was questioning me around my process. And it made me really think about why I was doing things and how I was doing things as well. So then I came back from Singapore to Ireland, and I touched on Sam Portland earlier. And I joined Sam's mentorship, his online mentorship, during COVID. And it was undoubtedly the best thing that I possibly could have done. I've said before, that was one of the major reasons in me starting this podcast and starting my own journey being self-employed and my own thing with Petey Performance. And he just gave me so much confidence and really challenged me to get outside my comfort zone and try things, but also gave me the confidence in saying, like, you definitely can do it. You have the background and knowledge. Just do it. It doesn't need to be perfect. Just put it out there. Do your best. See what comes of it. If no one listens to it or no one sees it, then no one listens to it, no one sees it. So there's nothing lost out of it, out of that interaction. He also made me less linear in terms of my focus and made me think more about how I'm caring for myself, how I'm managing my time, where the business is going long term, and how I'm going to get there, and what is sustainable for me long term in terms of workloads, in terms of making things more efficient, in terms of what's going to be the best thing for me, and standing up for myself at times and saying, okay, look, this is what I require in order for this to be a viable option for me, because I'm not just Peter Wright, the strength and conditioning coach. I am Peter Wright, the son, Peter Wright, the brother, Peter Wright, the friend. Yeah, like I can't just wrap up all of my identity in my professional life. I have to have other things. I don't have to have other things, but it is of benefit to me and my personality. And because I've identified what my values in life are, that I take time away from what I'm doing so that I can refill my cup, so that I can fill up the cups of others as well in my coaching, in my business, in what I do, and provide the most value there. So sometimes it's a case of stepping back a little bit in order to make things better, not pushing, which was my strategy and still is a lot of the time is my strategy, is to push and push and push and do more and more and more, rather than saying, okay, let's sit back, let's let it come to us, let's do what we do to a great degree or to the best degree that we possibly can and control what we can control, but everything that's out of our control, let's just let it go, like Elsa. But yeah, absolutely. So he was the right person at the right time for me in terms of that personal development, as well as getting my footing in the online space and figuring out what I wanted out of this whole thing and whether it was going to be worth it. And I still have multiple conversations with Sam, and like they're always so beneficial. And he is the one really that made me comfortable in talking about the deeper topics on this podcast as well, because it was very rugby orientated, very performance orientated. And seeing how vulnerable he can be and seeing how open he was and seeing it come back to him and seeing it benefit so many people was one of the major reasons in me being willing to do so as well. Because who cares at the end of the day? If you help one person, then it's going to be better than it's going to be better, or it's going to be worthwhile, even if 5, 10, 20, 30 people are saying, who the fuck your man think he is? Like, what the hell is he on about? He is no stance, or he has no position to be talking about these things. If you help 1, 2, 3 people, it's going to be of benefit to them, and more benefit to them than it is a stress on the other people. So just provide value for your audience, help them in whatever way you possibly can, and it does come back. And I'm seeing it come back as well. We're seeing so much growth, and we're seeing the business going in the right direction, and we're seeing ourselves helping other people, and people seeing real value in what we're doing. And for that, I thank him all the time. And he's the only one that I'm speaking about so far that runs an online mentorship. So if that sounds like something that you'd be interested in, now I'm not selling anything I said, but I'm not selling it for me. But I think if you are someone that is struggling with those aspects, Sam is your man for personal development, for growth in a personal aspect, as well as refining your speed process and your process to coaching and managing how you deliver everything. He's been in the game for quite some time. He'll be in it for a long time more, I think. And he's making some real valuable changes there with some really good coaches who, what I haven't touched on in that, I made some great connections and some great friends out of that mentorship, which, yeah, it's been awesome. Like Sammy Dowling, I'd now be in conversation with fairly frequently. Jamar Hall, I know him extremely well. Like we converse quite a bit. Toby Williamson, I was chatting to during the week as well. Ryan Devlin's coming over to Dublin. He's going to come down to Thomas Davis and see what we're doing there. And maybe I'll get over to Hull in some stage. Liam Meistry, I met at the SpeedWorks seminar, and it was weird that we were meeting for the first time in person because it seems like we know each other really well. And a multitude of other people that I haven't spoken about there, like, and connections in this industry are everything, as I touched on a couple of episodes ago. Which brings me to what I'm doing now. I'm doing Alan's SpeedWorks mentorship, which has a heavy focus on speed development and game speed. And it seems to be the niche that I've carved out for myself. It seems to be what people want to hear from me. And I've been over for our first in-person mentorship last week, and it was class. It was class. My dad asked me, what did I learn? And I just said to him, I learned how to organize the training session to get the most out of it and the most learning from the athletes, how to challenge them, and to be dynamic in how we change things and how we challenge the athlete. As well as that, I learned that I have a decent coaching eye. Like, it's pretty good. Alan said that himself. I knew it was okay, but you're always kind of questioning, is it as good as you think it is? Because you're not getting challenged when you're working with yourself or by yourself or with your other staff. And my other staff might be reluctant to challenge me. So I was like, okay, I really need to figure out whether what I'm seeing is what's actually happening. And we had a task last week, and I was, for the most part, pretty correct in terms of my analysis from Alan's point of view, which was great. But I've gone over there to seek out his help in terms of refining my process. And what I also learned was, I think at times I can be too keen for the last few years in trying to provide so much value by focusing on improving so many different things and doing so many different things in a session. Whereas realistically, if I picked 1 to 2 things max per session that I wanted to get out of it, and I really zoned in and focused on those 1 to 2 things, there's going to be far more value in getting greater learning from the athlete in those 1 to 2 different facets and having some meaningful change to those 1 to 2 different things that we're trying to improve than there is in trying to kill multiple birds with one stone and provide as much value as possible by doing as much as possible, because then you're just diluting what you're doing. So sure, we're trying to provide value, but we provide value by doing what we know will make an impact to a great degree and really zoning in and focusing on that. And then I met a number of great coaches over there as well, which has been really, really valuable too. And shout out to Alan as well. He is accepting mentees into his mentorship as well. I think he's running it in a hybrid and an online setting. So if game speed is something that you're interested in, then he is your man. You need to go to him, especially for rugby. And then what I'm hoping, or what I'm trying to do anyway, and it seems to be working, is bringing that approach from rugby back to a Gaelic Games environment and really improving how we coach and how we develop game speed qualities in GAA, in Gaelic football, and in hurling. Because it seems to me, and if you've been consuming my content, you will know it seems to me that the middle part or the middle aspect of the development of game speed or agility is often missed by us as coaches. Often we do a lot of close drills and then some really, really open drills with multiple different athletes, but in the middle, we're not really doing much coaching in terms of how to move, how we react to defenders, how we expose the athletes to defenders progressively and scenarios progressively and get it progressively harder so they can accelerate faster, sprint faster, change direction faster, decelerate faster, and then hopefully create space quicker or close space quicker and create space quicker so they can knock the ball over the bar, or close space quicker so they can dispossess their opponent or win the ball or whatever. And from a specific standpoint, I don't think we do that very well. And I think we can improve. And I think there's scope to improve. And I think there's scope to improve the process. And that's something that is a part of our mission at Petey Performance, to level up the quality of delivery of strength and conditioning coaching or performance coaching to GAA athletes in this country at both club level and at intercounty level and at every level. And I think we're doing that, and we're going to continue getting better, and the athletes that are working with us are going to continue getting better with us. But you only do so by trying different things. And for the most part, what I've seen is the stuff that I've been trying, athletes have been really, really engaged in, because they see the direct value in doing so, because they can see how it's transferring over to how they perform on game day. Because when you're trying to get athletes in the past to just lift weights and run, and that's all we did for strength and conditioning, we all know that athletes would a lot of the time fall off throughout the season because they wouldn't see the value in doing so. Now that's partly an issue around showing them and demonstrating to them the value in doing so, but also it's an issue in terms of transfer, because that's the question it always comes back to, is how is this going to help me on the field? And my athletes still quiz me on that, in terms of like Keane Murphy, who is in with Dublin, but still makes a real effort to come down to our trainings with our seniors. He was asking me, like, how much change can it actually make doing the microdose pre-session, whether it be in relation to linear speed and running mechanics, or in relation to change of direction and those mechanics. And like I was outlining to him, it's better to do it for sure than to not do it, because sometimes all we need to retain qualities or develop them if they're not getting worked on is a microdose, a small amount of it. And I've been seeing sprint speeds for our lads going up and up and up, which will hopefully improve and increase their anaerobic speed reserve, which I've spoken about previously, which will mean that they will be able to tolerate lower intensities of running and velocities without using as much energy. It'll be easier for them to tolerate that velocity or that intensity for longer. So they'll be more efficient on the field. And if they're more efficient on the field, then hopefully they'll be able to be more effective on the field. Likewise, if we continually expose athletes to certain environments and certain qualities and certain movements, then they're definitely going to be more likely to be comfortable in those scenarios and in those movements when they get to match day. If you don't sprint, you're not going to be prepared to sprint on match day. Likewise, if you don't take on defenders one-on-one in training, you're not going to be likely to be able to do it when you're called upon to do it on a match day, when the risk versus reward is a lot higher, but you have so much more to gain. So we have more to gain by doing all of these things than we do have to lose by allocating a small amount of time to working on these things. As well as that, if I can make a minor change to an athlete's running mechanics, and the question will be, well, I don't run like that when I'm on the field, I'm not worried about it. But if I can make you closer to those, quotation marks for anybody that's just listening here, optimal mechanics, or what I consider optimal in my technical model, if I can refine it so that you can do that in a closed environment and you can do that more consistently, then I hopefully narrow the bandwidth with which you sprint come match day. So that means that you will be less far away from that technical model and those optimal, quotation marks again, running mechanics. So therefore you will be more efficient and your risk of injury will hopefully be reduced. But it's not going to be perfect every time. And we have to make it a non-conscious movement pattern, or we have to have that goal in mind so that when you get to the match day, it's going to be non-conscious, because the question always comes back when I'm watching or when I put up a video of David Clifford sidestepping a defender, or Shane Walsh. Well, he's not thinking about all that. And my answer is yeah, because he is a master. He has technical mastery of that scenario and that movement. So he doesn't need to think about it. Whereas we're not all as good as David Clifford and Shane Walsh, which is why we need to develop those qualities over and over and over again so that it is non-conscious. And we all know that that happens with other skills. So why do we not treat game speed and linear speed as a skill as well? Because if you have to knock the ball over the bar from in front of the 21 in a game, if you're a pretty well-developed forward, you're not going to think about it. You're just going to kick it over the bar. And if somebody said to you, how did you kick that over the bar? You wouldn't be able to give them an answer because you weren't thinking about it, because you've achieved, hopefully, technical mastery of kicking the ball over the bar from the 21, and your bandwidth is narrower, so you're less likely to kick it wide or not kick it over the bar, if that makes sense. And I'm sure you can see from my journey with the mentorships that my learning has been streamlined, and how I think about these things has been streamlined and has been made more efficient and more effective by participating in these mentorships. And when I go into a mentorship or I look to work with someone and learn from them, I always am a little bit competitive with it, in that I will go in and I will say, right, I'm going to do the most here. I'm going to be the most well-read mentee. I'm going to learn absolutely everything, and I'm going to ask the most questions if I'm unsure, and be the most open to improving and changing. And by doing so, I used to do that at school actually as well. In class, I'd say, right, well, I'm going to work the hardest in this classroom. And it's not like a competition thing that I don't want other people to work hard as well. In fact, it's a similar approach to what I would use with my athletes and what I would use when I was playing sport, in that I would go out and I would say, right, I want to play better than you, but I don't want to play better than you because you play badly. I want to play better than you because you play your absolute best game, and I still play better than you because I'm better than you and I work harder than you and I play my best game. I don't want to play and beat a worse version of you. I want to beat the best version of you. So I leave no doubt in my mind that I'm the best player here, or I'm the best athlete, or I'm the best mentee. And that might sound a bit mad to people, and it might sound, Jesus, your man's a bit tapped, but I suppose I am in a way, and I'm just a driven individual. And it comes from years and years and years of repping that. But Alex Hormozy talks about this as well, and Stephen Bartlett. It also comes from an insecurity in myself that I'm not good enough. So I constantly and consistently have to prove to myself that I am good enough by performing well, and putting in good work. And as Alex Hormozy puts it, being who I say I am. So if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. And I take pride in doing that. And that is why, I guess, I've done well at various different things. Well, I suppose it depends what you would consider well or consider good. But in my mind as well, because of my insecurities, I'm still not satisfied and I'm still not happy with what I've done so far, and I want to do more and I want to do it better. But in a way, I've become more comfortable with that through these mentorships as well, probably more so because of Sam's than any other, in knowing that I am enough and I don't have to do it absolutely way better to be enough because I'm enough already. Needless to say, though, and I still have to say it, I still want to do it better for myself because I take pride in what I do. So I think if you take pride in what you do and you want to do it better, it's madness not to have a mentor, even one. And I think in terms of your mentors and how you seek out mentorship opportunities, I think there's multiple people you should reach out to. There's always a best one at the best time, the same way as there will be a best coach for you at the best time. But I also think, and this is maybe a little bit more outside the box in terms of not everybody thinks it's this way, but some people think you should have the same mentor for years and years and years and years so you can learn the most from them. But my perspective is you're never going to be them. You're always going to be striving to be the best you. So I think you're better off to diversify your learning a little bit and spend a decent chunk of time with each mentor, but then move on to the next mentor to develop and fill in the gaps in your approach and in your process so that you can become more well-rounded and even better. And I've even said this to Alan. I was like, I'm going to do your mentorship and I'm going to be mentored by you. And I'm really excited for it. But after that mentorship, I'm probably going to seek out someone in some other area to develop in that area as well. Because I think we all want to be specialist coaches. This is something Henry taught me in a book he gave me. But the best specialists are really good generalists who then specialize. So if you want to be a really good generalist, you have to expose yourself to a variety of different learning opportunities. And the best learning opportunity for you is probably seeking out a mentor to accelerate your development and accelerate your learning. And there's parallels there between that and seeking out a coach to accelerate your development in terms of your athleticism and in terms of how you are as a player. So, a quick one for you guys today. Loads to think about there. I hope you enjoy it. And if you did enjoy it, please remember to like it, share it, and send it.